Just going into comics again for a second, you're not just an award winner for your own series, but you're also an award winner for working on things like Hellblazer and obviously Punisher as well. How do you feel about the difference between writing as an ongoing series and something where you know yourself there is a beginning and an end, and that you don't have the pressure of making your way onto the end?
It's not that different when you're actually doing it, because to be honest with you, when I'm writing an established character like Constantine or Frank Castle, I'm not that interested in the notion of continuity in comics. I don't really worry too much about what came before or what will come after. I just do my thing. You take what you need from what went before and you ignore the rest. When I did The Punisher, I didn't rely too heavily on previous appearances. I looked at some of the Chuck Dixon stories. He did a run on, I think it was Warzone or something, that John Romita drew. He did about a dozen issues of that, and that was a terrific run, and that was sort of my starting point. But a few years later, when I began the Punisher Max book, I left even that behind, and at that stage I was very much doing my own thing. So no, it doesn't worry me. I mean, you try and put your stamp on it a little bit if it's something you care about, but you accept that you're doing work for hire, and if the next guy wants to come along and change the character utterly beyond recognition and negate everything you do, well then that's exactly his right, and it's the company's right to publish it.
You're one of the first people out there at the time to kind of move away from the conventional superhero and show that writing a story about a story without having a million superpowers can actually, sell comics and prove to do what it's meant to do. Do you feel, however, that you have a conventional superhero in you? And if you do, what kind of powers and stuff would it have?
Something that I would create.
Yeah, still have your take on it, obviously, so your style will still be in there.
I don't know. I mean, it would be a question of financial desperation, to be honest with you, because I would have reached the point where I would have to write a genre for which I have a good deal of disdain. Not having read superheroes as a kid, not having come to them until I was 17 or 18, I have none of the kind of sentimentality that you have for the stuff you read when you're a kid that allows you to suspend disbelief and enjoy the story. So I have no affection for that genre, certainly in its regular form. I would say that if maybe my biggest problem with superhero comics is that they never develop. They never take the character to the next stage. Very occasionally you get books that do, like Watchmen, Marvel Man, Miracle Man. Warren Ellis did a really interesting book called Super God. I thought that was terrific because he tried to show you what it would be like for someone not just to be but to think superhuman. And the best example of that is the Indian character, the Indian superhero who the Indian government say to, right, your job is to to save India, but they're not too careful about what that actually means. They don't define it for him. So he takes a look at India and he says, right, overpopulation and crumbling infrastructure. So he burns down the second, and that takes care of about half the first. And he saved India. Of course, he's killed millions of people, but he saved India. And that I thought was a great example of how you could have beyond inhuman thinking.
I mean, the only example I can think of beforehand that had superheroes that kind of had that kind of development was Squadron Supreme, maybe. I don't know.
I've not seen that.
It had that. It was the first time I'd seen any kind of weird take on, outside issues.
The trouble is that most conventional books, by their nature, because they're set in these shared universes, must always return to the status quo, because otherwise, take the story to its logical conclusion. Like Miracle Man, for instance, where he simply creates heaven on earth, builds a utopia. That's the end of the story. You can't go beyond that. If it's Batman or Spider-Man or anything else, they must return it to the status quo so that they can continue to publish stories about the character. Financially sound, creatively, only rarely interesting.
Right. What are you creating at the moment? What's out there that you feel that you want to push across right now?
What am I doing? There's war stories in the battlefield Battlefield series from Dynamite. There'll be a similar series coming from Avatar. There's a new Crossed series starting next year, an ongoing book. I'm doing the first 3 issues of that with art by Jason Burrows. Obviously, The Boys is ongoing. We've got the Butcher series at the moment as well, and I'm doing a new book featuring Nick Fury for Marvel.
Oh, right.
That'll be like about a 12-issue thing,
Right.
with art by Goran Parlov, which the work he's doing on it is just fantastic. Beautiful pages.
Yeah. One more thing. Going back to the concept of war again. What really has got you involved in the stories? Is there anything in your background, like Ireland, etc., Northern Ireland, that's given you that incentive to want to write these stories and explain kind of the psychology behind it?
Yes, but only in the sense of growing up in a nice quiet suburb, purchasing Battle Picture Weekly every Friday. Fantastic stories. I was lucky enough to be reading Battle at the time with people like Pat Mills and John Wagner and Joe Calhoun and John Cooper, Mike Western and so on were working for it. Absolutely fantastic work by some of the very, very best in comics. I think that led to a kind of an interest in military history that then came full circle and brought me back to doing war comics. In terms of growing up in Northern Ireland, no. I grew up in a quiet suburb that frankly most people would recognise, and I can tell you no war stories, no harrowing accounts. I have none of that stuff. I can't make any pretenses to it either. So it's really very much a question of the comics I read as a kid, feeding into an interest in military history, and then leading to me wanting to write my own war stories.
I'd like to thank Garth for spending time with us and talking to us.
My pleasure, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Please come again anytime. Remember to keep in contact with us and let us know what you think, and we'll speak soon. Thank you, Garth.
Cheers.